Subject: Staff Sergeant Power. Species: human. Description: mammalian humanoid, no tail. 6'2", 1.87 meter average height. 185 pounds, 84 kilogram average weight. 170-year life expectancy. Ship: not available. Location: Seoul. Why weren't we using warp prevention to begin with? I demanded. Because you organics have a terrible habit of making your toys so damned grandiose that it makes it impossible to effectively run things without consuming vast amounts of resources, Omega replied. Sending a jamming signal into warp is energy intensive, and we had no way of knowing when the Omni Union would attack. It costs far less reactor fuel to keep max charge than it does to keep the warp disruptors running.
Omega's right, Director 4 added. We believed it to be likely that the OU may attack Seoul, but it was far more energy efficient to counterattack than it would have been to try to prevent the attack. We also aren't certain that the warp disruptors will work on mobile prime platforms.
Why not? I asked.
They're big enough that they might be able to simply shrug off the damage that warp disruptors cause to mass trying to re-enter real space. It would have been a massive waste of fuel to have the warp disruptors running and have them be ineffective.
Yeah? Well, we ain't so much worried about the MPPs right now, are we? Jason asked as we walked up. The man with the bullhorn and old-fashioned camo outfit turned out to be named Jason Jones. When the OU started touching down, we'd quickly diffused our disagreements and joined forces. Things were still somewhat tense because of the bodies we'd dropped, but it is what it is. Jason's ultimate goal is to get his people evacuated, and Omega was quick to promise an evac in exchange for keeping the Director safe during this invasion.
I suppose not, Director 4 said hesitantly.
How's the prep going? I asked. The bunker was professionally made, and had a reinforced tunnel for its entrance. It was fully stocked for a staff of over 100 people for more than 2 months, so we wouldn't have to be worrying about food or water. I wondered why a city hall would be at this level of preparation, and Omega had glibly reminded me. I have forgotten most of the Earth history I'd learned in high school, but after Omega's brief refresher course, I feel like the city of Adelaide may be under-prepped. We've got a squad supporting the APC out front, and clear firing lines in the tunnel. There's heaps of ammo, and we passed out all that we can carry and stored the rest in the bunker. Your man Johnson did a tally of the supplies and says things are good, Jason said. No coldies, but we got water and brekkie. That'll have to do.
What kind of anti-armor did you bring?
None. Weren't expecting cans like yours. Figured you'd be landing at the spaceport and driving up, so we brought shredder strips, but you fully surprised us with your sudden appearance. Shredder strips are used to destroy the tires of most vehicles. Sharp steel barbs arranged in such a way to grab and tear when you drive over them. Absolutely devastating to inflatables, but also useful against airless tires. Probably not as useful against tank tread, though. How far away is the base that you got your gear from? Jason laughed at the question. 6 or 7 hours, mate. It's between us and the Melbourne exclusion zone, but closer to the exclusion zone. Damn, I swore, then switched off my speakers. Omega, if we use the shuttle, how long would it take? If he's talking about Ballarat Barracks, about an hour and a half round trip, Omega said. An hour and a half? I asked incredulously. It would have to be a low-altitude flight, which will limit how fast we can go. Any ships that go too high are going to get shot out of the sky. Nothing can be allowed to leave the system while the OU are here. I looked at Jason and was thankful that he couldn't hear Omega. As an undog, he's already pretty disillusioned with the United Systems. Pointing out the fact that the US is willing to kill fleeing civilians would just add fuel to that fire. Probably wouldn't even matter that one ship of fleeing civilians could doom an entire system. Sergeant Smith, I said over comms. Yes, Staff Sergeant? Grab Corporal Simmons and take the shuttle to Ballarat Barracks. Omega will guide you there and back. I need you two to grab any and all infantry portable anti-armor you can find, and get back here on the double. I'm giving you 30 minutes on the ground. Once the 30 are up, You need to be heading back here. Roger that. Moving out. Smith and Simmons should be able to get plenty of anti-armor ordnance in 30 minutes, assuming there's any left. 45 minutes to get there, 30 minutes for shopping, 45 minutes to get back. 2 of my Guardian suits gone for 2 hours. That's probably going to sting, but I've done more with less. I turned back to Jason and he raised an eyebrow at me. It took me a moment to realize that he hadn't heard anything I'd been saying because of the soundproofing of the R9. He had just seen me standing here looking like I'm talking to someone. I fought the urge to chuckle at that mental image. I'm sending 2 of mine to do some shopping, I explained. It's Ballarat Barracks that they need to go to, right? Yep, he replied. Want some of mine to go with? No need. With these suits, my men can outpace and outlive yours by a very wide margin, I said. My men got Guardian suits too, mate. Not like these ones, and none of you are Gen Outs. I shook my head. There's also the matter of trust. I don't know you or your men, and the only thing that's keeping us from each other's throats is the threat of the OU and Omega's bargain. You'll forgive me for doubting that you and your men completely trust Omega's word. Jason laughed. Fair enough. You think the bot's telling the truth? It can get us out of here? I've got no reason to doubt it, I diplomatically replied. What if it's overawed by an admiral or something, though? I'd like to see them try. Omega's distinctive voice said from my suit speakers. They will be an ensign again before they finish giving the order. Your people will be evacuated once the OU threat has been eliminated. How long's that going to be, you figure? Jason asked, unsurprised by Omega's sudden interruption. If all goes well, a couple of weeks. In a worst-case scenario, a couple of months. There's also the possibility that the OU capture the system, in which case we'll have a whole other set of problems. Omega's brutally honest take on our situation left Jacob and I stunned for a moment. It made me wonder how things are going in space. If the OU managed to take Sol, how long would it take to get it back from them? Months? Years? There's also the political situation to think of. Humanity will push hard to take Sol back, but we'd only get a couple of chances before the pushback from the other species became too strong. One of the first arguments they'll make is that we're wasting resources on recapturing a mostly evacuated system that we already were wasting resources guarding. This argument will become much more potent with each failure to recapture the system. They will accuse us of using the US military as a tool for our own personal vendettas, conveniently sidestepping the fact that Sol is a part of the United Systems, and the only one being threatened on the Union. Omega's not wrong. If we fail to keep Sol, we will have to be worrying about food, water, and ammo. We won't be able to just hole up in this bunker. We'll have to venture forth. Doing so now would be foolish because we don't yet know where the OU has dug in. We'll need to give them a week or so, then scout out their locations and patrols. I looked at Jason and realized he was staring at me. His expression told me he had similar worries. We'll be fine, I said with fabricated confidence. We've got the best ships in the galaxy. Even if we lose Sol, we'll retake it damn quick. He smiled and shook his head. The reason I'm undocumented is because my parents and their parents wanted to avoid being drafted. Every undock in here has a similar tale. Just peaceful people wanting to live peaceful lives. And this is where we end up. The universe has a twisted sense of humor, mate. Drafted? I asked. The United Systems doesn't have a draft. Earth does. Mandatory military service for every Earth citizen, with the option to transfer that service to the US, he explained. Hasn't the Earth planetary government prohibited declarations of war? Sure. But how do you think they enforce that? The EPG is the one that runs the draft. If a nation gets uppity, they send soldiers to enforce the peace. Peace enforcement, as you would bloody know, is done through battle. He sighed. Not many nations are a fan of the EPG's peace either. We've been waiting for World War V to kick off any year now. This was news to me, but I found myself unsurprised. Earth had always presented itself to the galactic community as a near paradise, but in almost the exact way that shady vacation resorts do. The same kind of resort where you're slightly more likely to get mugged than you are to have any sort of fun. Part of me had hoped it was coincidence. A quote came to mind. I do not know with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. I think it was Albert Einstein who said that, shortly after Earth's Second World War. When we were learning Earth history in high school, my friends and I made fun of that quote, called it optimistic, turned it into an inside joke, and chuckled to ourselves when we learned about the destruction that happened during Earth's Fourth World War. Major cities turning into craters, coastlines getting new gulfs, the fall of the American Empire, and nearly 1 billion deaths were all sources of amusement to us. Look what you can do with some sticks and stones, we had said. Of course, we were bored and angsty teenagers who were far separated from the violence being explained to us by our teachers, by both time and distance. Still, I couldn't help but feel a stab of shame. Anyway, what should we be doing? Jacob asked. We'll need intel on enemy movements, I answered. You and your men know the area well. Find out who's willing to do some scouting and get them prepped. We'll need them on the road in a day or two once the OU settles in. We want to know where the Omni Union are and what moves they're making. Be sure to tell the scouts not to get close. Their lives are more valuable than the intel. That's a switch. Not really. We're low on body count and we're likely going to be assaulted at some point. We'll fill every death, so we need to make those deaths count. Jacob stared at me for a moment, then nodded and walked away. As he was going, 2 of the team indicator lights in my helmet disappeared, indicating that Smith and Simmons were outside of standard comms range. Their mission might end up being a waste of time, but it would be really damn dumb not to at least try to prepare for enemy armor. Contact! Hansen said over comms. Receiving fire. Get everyone in position if they aren't already and return fire, I ordered, as I hefted my rifle. Another day, another firefight.